Okay, welcome back everybody. Sorry for the delay. Let's go ahead and start working on some midpoint problems, and then I'll make a separate video about distance. So I'm going to use your homework assignment to do some example problems. So go ahead and pause this video, find the homework, open it up, and let's take a look. So I'm going to start off with number one. Number one says find the midpoint given the endpoints, and our midpoint is -9, -6, and the other point is -10, -4. Okay, so the midpoint formula, and I'm going to erase this after I write it, but I would write this at the top of my paper or at the bottom, somewhere where I can see it all the time. Midpoint equals, big old parentheses, it's going to be x2 plus x1, or x1 plus x2 rather, divided by 2, but it's going to be the same because it's adding. And then a comma, not a plus because it's a place, not a number. And then we're going to add the y's together, so y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So we're just going to add our x's together, and divide by 2, and then we add our y's together and divide by 2, and we put a comma in between them to show that, well, this is my x part, and this is my y part, right? With a comma in between, because it's a place. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start working that out. Before I work it out, though, there's something that's really important that I always make sure I do. Whenever I deal with anything that has coordinate points, I always label my points. So this is the x part, and this is the y part. This is the x part of the second point, and this is the y part of the second point. And we use our subscripts to tell the difference between the two x's. So this is the first x, this is the second x, this is my first y, this is my second y. I always label my points. So let's go ahead and do our midpoint formula. The midpoint formula says, I'm going to add my x's together, so -9 plus -10, or -10, right, divided by 2, comma, let's add our y's together, -6 minus 4, or plus -4, right, divided by 2. -9 plus a -10, or -9 minus 10, it's the same thing, is -19. So it's -19 divided by 2. And you could just keep it like that. You don't need to use a mixed number. You can if you want. -19 divided by 2, or -9.5. And the y part of it, -6 minus 4 is -10 divided by 2 is -5. That is a whole number. And so this is my midpoint. Now it's kind of tricky the first couple of times you do it, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So let's go ahead and do one more. This time I'm gonna skip down to number 6, just because. So let's go ahead and try number 6. Our points are 3, -6, and -4, 11. And they want us to find the midpoint. So you could also graph these if you wanted to think about it visually. You don't have to write this part down. But if you're thinking about it conceptually, you don't even have to graph it specifically. But 3, if I go forward 3 and then down 6, that's somewhere over here. And if I go backwards 4 and up 11, that's somewhere way up here, right? And so our midpoint should be something that's not too big, not too small. It's going to be somewhere in this area, right? It's about halfway in between. So let's go ahead, let's do our calculations to find out exactly where it is. We're going to do the math and then compare it with where we thought it would be. First things first, I'm going to label my points. X, Y, X, Y. This is my first point. This is my second point. My midpoint formula wants me to add the x's together, so 3 minus 4, or 3 plus a negative 4 divided by 2, comma, not a plus, because it's a place, not a number. And then I'm going to add my y's, negative 6 plus 11. And we could do 11 minus 6, and it would still be the same thing. Divide by 2. So our midpoint is 3 minus 4. 3 minus 4 is a negative 1. Divided by 2 is just going to be negative 1/2, or negative 0.5. And then the negative 6 plus 11 is going to be a positive 5. 5 divided by 2, it's about 2.5. So yeah, neither of those numbers is really big, right? If we were to graph that. Negative 1/2 would be just back just a little bit, and then up 2.5. So it'd be somewhere right about here, which was about right? With our points being somewhere way up here and down here. Hey, how's it going? So those are your examples for midpoint.